Hi everyone, hope you all must be doing great. So today we are starting with the revision for our very important chapter TDS. We understand that this chapter, including TCS also, it carries around 6 to 8 marks in an examination for CA Intermediate, and today we are revising for our January 2025 examinations. Today I'll be discussing with you TDS, and in the next lecture we'll be covering TCS also, right? So let's start with the very first section. The first section of TDS is section 192, that is TDS on salary. We understand that if an employee is working with some company, he's working with some partnership firm, he's working with any of the employer. So whenever that employer will pay him salary, they are going to deduct TDS, right? So let's say there is an employee. For example, I'm taking an example. There is an employee, Mr. A. He's an employee, correct? And he's working with some employer. Here is an employer. This employer can be a company. This employer can be a partnership firm. This employer can be individual, HUF, AOP, BOI, etc. Any employer. So any employer, while paying salary to the employee, while paying salary, generally we get salary per month, right? So while paying the salary per month, they will be deducting TDS. First of all, please remember that which type of individual rich you have whose turnover of the last year is exceeding 1 crore or 50 lakh. No, there is no such requirement over here. It could be any individual rich you have. It could be any company, any firm, any employer, I would rather say. So if I give you an example, let's say there is an employee, Mr. A. He's an employee. He's working with some company. For example, he is working with Tata Motors Limited. Tata Motors Limited. Tata Motors Limited is the employer, correct? So whenever this employer will be giving the salary, so please understand section 192 says deduct TDS, Tata Motors deduct TDS at the time of payment. Whenever you will be giving salary to your employee, please deduct TDS. Now, the second question is how much TDS? What is the rate under section 192? Because generally we know that in most of the sections we get rate. Generally it is 10%, somewhere it is 30% also, somewhere it is 1%, 2% also, 5% also. So we have specific rates in most of the sections. What about section 192? We do not have such rates. We say that under section 192, we deduct TDS at average rate. At average rate. What do you mean by average rate? It depends upon Mr. A that how much income he is getting, how much income he is earning. So whatever the income which he is earning, we will be calculating tax on that. And Tata Motors will be deducting TDS depending upon the income, depending upon the tax which Mr. A has. Right. For example, let's say I'm taking very random figures. Let's say Tata Motors is giving him salary. For example, I'm taking a computed salary. Everything is computed. Let's say his income is 10 lakh rupees. Tata Motors is giving him 10 lakh rupees. So there would be some amount of tax on this 10 lakh, right? First of all, now we have two regimes. We have default regime also, and we have optional regime also when this person opts out from this default regime. Correct. So we know that the tax amount would be different in both the regimes. So how Tata Motors would be deducting TDS, whether by following default or by following optional. See, 192, it says that we will ask from the employee himself. We will ask from the employee that which regime he is following. So in the beginning of the year itself, in the beginning of the year, Tata Motors will ask employee which regime are you following, default regime or optional. So if this person responds that I am following any regime, either default or optional, we will be computing his tax as per the regime which he is following. But if nothing is mentioned in your question, if nothing is mentioned in your question, please always follow. You understand that we have to follow default regime. Correct? Okay. Coming back, let's say Tata Motors is giving him salary and the computed amount is, let's say, 10 lakh. This is the computed amount, 10 lakh rupees. Let's say we have to calculate tax on 10 lakh rupees. I'm calculating, I'm not right now not calculating it. I'm just giving you an example. I'm giving you a very random figure. Let's say the tax on this 10 lakh comes to rupees 90,000. So what will Tata Motors will do next is, first of all, they have seen their income, how much he will earn during the entire year, how much would be the tax. First of all, they will add 4% health and education cess. They will add 4% health and education cess. Let's say it comes to about 3,600. The total tax comes to 93,600. Correct? Second important thing which you should remember. Generally, in most of the sections, which we will be doing, I'll be sharing this PDF also with you, don't worry. In most of the section which we would be doing today, you will see that we never consider 4% health and education cess. While deducting TDS, deductor never consider the health and education cess. They never consider. They simply deduct 10%. They simply deduct 5%, 1%, 2%, whatever the rate is. But 192 is a very, very special section. 192 is a very, very special section. It says that whenever TDS will be deducted, we will be considering health and education cess also. Important thing. Correct? Okay. So let's say this is a very random amount which I have calculated. If you will calculate tax on 10 lakh, I think it would be something else. I have just given you a random figure. 93,600 is the tax. So this is the tax for the entire year. But they are paying salary every month. So what they will do is, I'm assuming that he's working for the entire year, that is 12 months. So what they will do is, they will deduct this TDS in 12 equal installments. So simply, they will divide this amount by, let's say, 12. 93,600 divided by 12, 7,800 per month. They will be deducting TDS. So they will be at the time of payment of salary. Will they be deducting the TDS at the end of the year? No. Every time when they will be paying salary, generally we get salary every month. So every time they will be paying salary, they will be deducting TDS. Who? Tata Motors. Employer can be anyone. It could be company, it could be partnership firm, it could be AOP, BOI, HUF, individual, anyone. Even the individual turnover of the last year is exceeding 1 crore, not exceeding 1 crore, does not matter under section 192. Please remember, it does not matter under section 192. So it depends upon the salary of the employee, that how much he is earning, we will be deducting tax accordingly. Correct? And the time of deduction is at the time of payment. Whenever we'll be paying salary to this person, we will be deducting TDS. Second important thing. Let's say Mr. A's salary income is, let's say, 10 lakh. It's a computed income after all deductions and everything. So let's say salary income is 10 lakh. Let's say, presume that Mr. A has also some income from other heads. Let's say he has house property income, PGBP income, or any other head income, IFOS, capital, etc. Can Mr. A can also intimate this? Mr. A can also declare this income to the employer, and will we be deducting tax on this income also? The answer is yes. In case they mention that, sir, I have, apart from salary, I have income from other heads also, house property, PGBB, capital gain, IFS, anything. So let's say I have income of rupees 4 lakh. This is coming from some other things, other sources, other heads. So now if they furnish this income, if Mr. A furnishes this income to the employer, then employer will be considering the other income also. So now the total income will become 14 lakh. They will calculate the tax accordingly, and they will be deducting tax under which section? 192. So on other income also, yes. Who is deducting? The employer. They will deduct under section 192, considering the other income. So if Mr. A will not declare such income, then we will be deducting only on salary. But yes, please remember, if the employee says that, sir, I have income from other sources also, and I would like to declare that, then we will be considering that income also while deducting TDS, right? Second important point. Let's say if there is a losses in other heads, can we show that losses also? Can he say that, sir, I have a loss from any of the sources? Let's say house property, I have loss, I have other sources loss. So can I show that also? Will he be considering that? The answer is no. If you will tell your positive income, then we will take it. But if you will tell your negative income, that is losses, then we are not going to take it. Except the exception is house property. We can take your house property loss. Except Losses can only be considered which is related to house property and no other losses. Income, positive income you can declare, but if you will declare any negative income, only house property would be considered. Now, there is a little bit concept of set off also. We understand under the chapter of set off and carry forward. Let us discuss that chapter also a little bit. Under that chapter of set off and carry forward, we know that house property losses, if you are following default regime, then house property losses cannot be set off from other heads, not even salary. House property losses cannot be set off from other heads. So if let's say if we are following default regime, can he show his house property loss to us? Can he declare his house property loss to us? The answer is no. Why? Because under default tax regime, even if he will declare house property losses, we will not consider because it cannot be set off. However, if this assessee is opted out from this default tax regime and is following optional regime, in that we know set of chapter will tell us that if you are following, in case you are following optional tax regime, house property losses can be set off from other heads, maximum to the extent of 2 lakh. That is all set off and carry forward, right? So I was saying that now coming back to TDS, I was saying that Tata Motors will be deducting TDS on salary. If he is declaring some other income also, we will be considering that as well. If he will be considering other losses also, we will not consider, except only and only house property loss, and that too under optional regime only. We cannot take it in default regime. Got it? So this was in all section 192 in short. So this is section 192. TDS on salary. Deductor would be any employer. I will be sharing this PDF also, don't worry. Deductor would be any employer. Deductee. Who is the deductee? Whose amount is getting deducted? Employee. This employee can be resident also, and even this very, very important. Even this employee is a non-resident and he's working with any employer in India. He's having his income from India. So this employer will be deducting the TDS for non-resident also. So this section is applicable both to resident as well as non-resident. What is the rate of tax? There is no such rate. It depends upon the income of the employee and we will be deducting tax accordingly. That is the reason we say that under section 192, there is no specific rate, only average rate of tax, right? So it depends upon the income of the employee. When we have to deduct TDS? At the time of payment. At the time of credit or payment, whichever is there, no. Section 192 will say at the time of payment. Whenever you will be paying salary, please deduct TDS of the employee. Got it? So this was section 192, an important section. Okay. Second section is 192A. Okay, I'll tell you this also. Section 192A. See, let's say there is an employee, Mr. Z, and he has a employee provident fund account, and his money is lying over here. Mr. Z is an employee, his money is lying over here. And if Mr. Z is withdrawing this money from his EPF, if Mr. Z is withdrawing the money, so who would be paying the money? The person who is maintaining this EPF, mainly trustee of EPF, right? So trustee of EPF would be paying him money. So at the time of when they would be paying this money to him, and if the threshold limit is more than 50,000 rupees, if they are paying him rupees more than 50,000, they will be deducting TDS at rate of 10%. They will be deducting who? The person who is making the payment from this Provident Fund, mainly the trustee of the Provident Fund. They will be deducting TDS at rate of 10%, and the threshold limit over here is 50,000 rupees. See, if the amount which he is withdrawing is 40,000, 45,000, or even 50,000, there would be no TDS because it is not going above threshold limit. But let's say if it is 55,000, he is withdrawing 55, then they will be deducting 10%. How much? 5,500. On the excess amount or on the entire amount? On the entire amount. 5,500. Got it? Not so very important section, but yes, we never know when examiner can ask it. Right? So please remember, more than 50,000, 10%. Correct? When one very important point. This provision would only be applicable. TDS would only be applicable under this section if the amount which Mr. Z is withdrawing is a taxable amount. Let's say this amount which he is withdrawing is an exempt amount. Let's say Mr. Z is withdrawing this amount is an exempt amount, then in that case, no TDS will be deducted. No TDS, even if the amount is more than 50,000, doesn't matter. If the amount which he is getting is an exempt amount, then no TDS will be deducted. Now the question arises, when this amount becomes exempt. So we know that in the chapter of salary, we do this, that if this person is withdrawing after 5 years, let's say he has already served 5 years, and after 5 years, if in case he is withdrawing, then this amount becomes exempt. So after 5 years, if he is withdrawing this amount, even if it is more than 50,000, please do not apply any TDS provisions. No amount, entire amount will be given to him, no TDS provisions. In case there are certain exceptions also of this 5 years, amount can be exempted even if you withdraw before 5 years. When? In case, let's say Mr. Z met with an accident, or he is now very ill, now he cannot work. That is the reason now. It was not because of his wish, but now because of his medical conditions, he cannot work. And now he has to leave this organization before 5 years. And if he is withdrawing the amount due to his medical issues, then also it will become exempt. No TDS will be deducted. Second exception, in case if he is withdrawing before 5 years, why? Not because of his own wish. Why? Because the employer has shut down his business. They have curtailed their operations. They have shut down any of their department. And now Mr. Z has to leave. But why? Because no more requirement of job over there. The employer has said, no, we are shutting down. We are firing you now. Right? And most of the employees are getting are losing their job. So if it is happening before 5 years also, then also it is exempt. So I'm again repeating, if you are withdrawing it after 5 years, or in case if you are withdrawing it before 5 years due to these genuine reasons, then this income become exempt. Then in that case, it is no TDS would be applicable. But if there are no such reasons, and if you are withdrawing it, provided the threshold limit is going above 50,000 rupees, the amount which you are withdrawing is getting above 50,000 rupees, then 10% TDS would be applicable. Got it? A very easy section. Important so. Section 192A, Employee Provident Fund. Trustee of EPF is the deductor. Who is the trustee of EPF? Who was maintaining that EPF? Who would be giving this amount to you? Trustee of EPF, while giving this amount to you, they will be deducting 10% TDS. So this deductee can be any employee. 10% would be the rate if the threshold limit is more than 50,000 rupees. Provided there would be no TDS if you are withdrawing it after 5 years or due to ill health, accident, medical conditions, or because of shutting down of the employer's business. Correct? So these are the two sections which are mainly related to employees. 192 is TDS on salary, 192A is employee provident fund. Let's come to some other important sections, and these sections which I am discussing right now are quite important from examination point of view also. Yes, they are important. Section 193. Section 193 is interest on securities. Interest on securities. Please understand this section first, then I'll be giving you the detail. Section 193 says if you are earning interest on securities. See, what are securities? See, who will earn interest? First of all, tell me. Let's say there is Mr. A. He has some surplus fund and he has invested it somewhere. He has invested in certain securities. And he has invested in, let's say, debentures, or he has invested in bonds. Can I say shares also? He can invest in share also. He can invest in shares, but on shares we get dividend. But right now we are doing interest on securities. We are doing interest. So I cannot take the example of shares here because on shares you get dividend. We have a separate section for dividend. Don't worry about it. But right now you are getting interest. On what? You are getting interest on debentures. You are getting interest on bonds or other financial instruments. If you are getting interest, then TDS would be applicable. TDS would be applicable. Who would be deducting TDS? The person who has issued you the securities. So the person who has issued you the debentures, they might be company, correct? So who issues debentures? Mainly company. Let's say there is a company, Infosys Limited. Infosys Limited, and you have purchased debentures or bonds of Infosys Limited. So Infosys Limited will pay you debenture interest. they will be deducting TDS at a rate of 10%. They will be deducting TDS at a rate of 10%. So this is interest on securities. Interest on securities. Right? Let's say Mr. A has invested some amount in bank and bank is paying him interest. Let's say bank is paying him interest on FD. Will be covered under interest on securities, or this is other interest? This is other interest. We have a different section for it. Because here, if you have invested in FD, you have not received any securities. Securities are financial instruments like debentures, like bonds, etc. Correct. So we have other interest. For other interest, we have a separate section. Right now, we are discussing interest on securities, section 193. For other interest, we have 194A. We'll be discussing in next 5 minutes. Okay. Coming back, section 193, interest on securities. Who will be deducting TDS? Who is the deductor? The issuer of securities, the company who has issued you these securities, they will be, or any other, it could be government, it could be any other who has issued you bonds, who has issued you other securities, they will be deducting TDS. Who is receiving this amount? The investor. Tell me, this investor who has purchased debentures or bonds, this investor can be a resident person also. This person can be non-resident as well. Under section 193 is only applicable if you are a resident. If you are a resident, then only 193 will be there. For non-resident, we have different sections. For non-resident, we have different section, and actually it is not in course for C intermediate, so I am not referring the section number also. Right? Unnecessary, we have so many sections over here. Unnecessary, I'll not burden you because that is not in our syllabus. Okay. So for resident, if the interest on securities is paid to resident investor, then there would be section 193. If this person is a non-resident, his TDS would be deducted. 100% his TDS would be deducted, but not under section 193. We have different section that we will see in final. Okay. So this person is a resident investor. Got it? This investor is a resident person. What would be the rate of TDS? 10%. Generally, you will find that in most of the cases, the rate of TDS is 10%. Got it? The rate of TDS is 10%. However, this is very important. There are certain securities on which there would be no TDS provisions would apply. If no TDS on national development bonds, generally these are issued by government. So the government has issued you national development bonds. They will not deduct TDS on this amount. If you have purchased government securities, then government will not deduct TDS. Government will not deduct TDS on securities. Why? They are giving you as some incentive because government wants money. Government wants money. They are asking you, please invest with us, invest your money here. We'll be issuing you securities and we will give you an advantage that we will not be deducting TDS, right? But yes, there are few government securities, 8% saving bonds and 7.75% saving bonds. Please remember these percentages in mind. Just remember that. No need to learn very much, but yes, read at least twice or thrice. So there are just remember by these words, saving bonds. So there are some bonds, 8%, 7.75% saving bonds on which TDS provisions would apply. Otherwise, on government securities, TDS provisions will not apply. Second thing, if the investor is resident, but the investor is LIC or general insurance company or any of its subsidiary, if the investor is LIC or general insurance companies or any of its subsidiary, then TDS will not be deducted, right? The investor here is, if securities are issued to, securities issued by or securities issued to, securities are issued to these. It's not Mr. A, it's LIC is the investor. GIC, general insurance company, is the investor. So in that case, TDS will not be deducted, right? And a very, very important point on debenture interest. If this receiver is, of course, this person is a resident. That is the reason we are discussing 193. If this person is individual or HUF, and the amount which he is receiving is not more than 5,000 rupees, which he is receiving, and he is receiving through banking mode like account pay check, in that case, the threshold limit is 5,000. Up to 5,000, we are not going to deduct TDS. But if you are receiving more than 5,000, then we will be deducting TDS. Let's say you are receiving 6,000 rupees then 10% TDS, that is 600 rupees, would be deducted by the issuer, the person who has issued the debentures. Generally, they are companies. Individual cannot issue debentures. Partnership firm cannot issue debentures. So generally, these are companies. They will be deducting TDS. So a classic example I've given to you. Let's say there is a company, Infosys Limited, and you have invested some amount in purchasing the debentures of Infosys. They are giving you interest. Let's say they are giving you interest of more than 5,000 rupees. Generally, they don't pay generally in cash. Now we every time we receive in our bank account directly, right? So let's say if they are paying you more than 5,000 rupees, let's say they are paying you 9,000 rupees. So they will be deducting 10% TDS. 900 they will be deducting, and the remaining amount they will be sending it to you in your bank. Got it? So this is section 193. Interest on securities. Please remember the rate 10%. Generally on interest and dividend, the rate is 10%. Now, the second section is 194, which is related to dividend. Again, you are getting some income on securities, but what type of income? Dividend. Because on securities, generally there could be securities like debentures or bonds where you will receive interest. There could be securities like shares where you will be receiving dividend. So for dividend, we have a separate section 194. So again, you will receive dividend. So again, if I talk about the investor, now these are not debentures or bonds, these are shares. If you have invested in the shares, let's say, I'm taking the same example, Infosys Limited. This person can be resident also, this person can be non-resident also. For non-resident, I will again say that we have another section that is not in our syllabus. But right now we are talking only about resident investor. So if there is Mr. A, he has purchased shares of any company. So generally companies issue shares. Partnership firm cannot issue shares. Individual HUF, etc. cannot issue shares. So generally these are the people who will be paying you dividend are companies. Correct? So these companies, when they will be paying you dividend, they will be deducting 10% TDS provided you are a resident assessee. For non-resident, there will be TDS, but not under this section. There is a separate section for that, which is again not in our syllabus. Okay. So TDS on dividend, Indian companies would be deducting of resident shareholder. If this shareholder is non-resident, TDS would be there, but in some other section, not in 194. 194 is only related with resident shareholder. The rate of TDS is 10%. And again, if this shareholder is an individual shareholder and he is getting up to 5,000 rupees, again, the limit is here, again, 5,000 rupees, then there would be no TDS if the payment is by any mode other than cash. Simple banking mode. If it is up to 5,000 rupees, no TDS, but if it is more than 5,000 rupees, then TDS would be there, right? Very, very important. These two sections are very important. In fact, most of the sections are important, right? Okay. Next section is 194A. 194 is again interest. See, 193 was also interest. This is also interest. But what is the difference between the two? This was 193 was interest on securities. 194A is interest other than securities. So from wherever you get interest, but actually you have not received any securities, but still you are getting interest. How? How it could be possible that you have not received the securities, but still you are getting interest? One of the classic example is, let's say, bank FD. So let's say if there is Mr. A, he has deposited his money in a bank. So bank would be paying interest to Mr. A. They will be deducting TDS under section 194A, which we are just discussing. Interest on securities was 193. This is 194A, interest other than securities. So if, let's say, Mr. A has opened an FD fixed deposit account over here and this bank is paying him interest, they will be deducting. There is a threshold limit also. I'll be discussing 40,000, 50,000 for senior citizen. I'll be discussing that. But yes, if they will be paying interest, bank would be paying interest to Mr. A, they will be deducting TDS. Correct? One of the example. Second example is, let's say Mr. A has given a loan. Mr. A has given a loan to whom? To a partnership firm. Let's say there is a partnership firm XYZ and Associates. And let's say one of the partner X happens to be a good friend of Mr. A. Mr. A is quite a rich person. He's quite a rich person. and X is a good friend of Mr. A. They need money in their business. Let's say they need rupees 50 lakh in their business. X goes to Mr. A. Mr. A, you are quite rich. I know that you have money. Also, you give your money on interest. Can you give us money we'll be using in our partnership firm? Let's say Mr. A finds that it is safe to give the money. He knows Mr. X that he will be giving the money back, let's say. So I'm not going into that details. Right now, Mr. A is getting interest. A is getting interest from whom? This partnership firm. This partnership firm is paying interest to Mr. A. Right? In which section TDS would be deducted? This partnership firm will be deducting TDS under section 194A only. Whether these securities are issued to him, the answer is no. Firm cannot issue securities. The firm cannot issue debentures. They cannot issue bonds, right? So Mr. A has lent some money over here. He has given the loan. Now XYZ is paying interest to them. So again, this is interest. This is interest, but this is other than securities 194A. So this person, any person who has borrowed the money, when they will be paying interest, that is, this interest is other than securities, the section is 194A. Provided this person should be resident. This person, if he is non-resident, there is another section again. This person should be a resident. Correct. Third example. Let's say there is a person, Mr. B. He is running his own business. And he happens to be a good friend of Mr. A. Mr. A is a rich person. Everybody is friend of Mr. A. So he has also, Mr. B has also, B borrower. Mr. B is a borrower. B for borrower. Okay. So Mr. B has also borrowed, let's say 20 lakh rupees. He has borrowed 20 lakh rupees from Mr. A. But Mr. A has specifically said that I need 12% per annum interest on my amount which I'll be giving you as a loan. So 12% interest, let's say 2,40,000 rupees. Now Mr. B is giving 2,40,000 rupees as an interest to Mr. A. Whether 194A would be applicable? The answer is yes, because that is interest other than securities. Mr. B has not issued any securities to him. So whether 194A is applicable, the answer could be yes. The answer could be yes. Sometimes the answer could be no also. So it depends upon Mr. B. So generally the deductor could be any person. It could be bank, it could be firm, it could be any other person. But if the deductor, I'm talking about these people, if these people are, let's say, if the deductor is individual or HUF, then they can deduct TDS only and only. Individual and HUF generally can deduct TDS only, because there are some sections where I will say that individual or HUF, any individual can also deduct TDS. But generally speaking, individual and HUF can only deduct TDS if they have a decent scale of business. How I will define decent scale of business, it depends upon the turnover of the business. So if individual or HUF has a decent business and the minimum turnover is required is 1 crore, should be more than 1 crore. In fact, if the turnover is more than 1 crore, or in case they are doing profession, it is more than 50 lakh of what? Of the last year. Let's say I am saying that are they required to deduct TDS in the previous year 23-24? So I will look the turnover of the last year. Last year is previous year 22-23. So I'll ask individual or HUF, you would be deducting TDS, but first of all tell me whether your turnover of the last year is exceeding 1 crore. Or in case you are doing business, 1 crore. In case you are doing profession, 50 lakh rupees. If it exceeds 50 lakh, then you can also deduct TDS under section 194A. But if Mr. B will say, no, sir, I am not that big businessman. My turnover is not more than 1 crore 50 lakh as the case may be. Then if he is paying interest, 194A would not be applicable. He can directly pay 240 without deducting any TDS. Got it? So there would be some circumstances where individual HUF can also deduct TDS like section 194A. See, in section 194 and 193, why I have not mentioned it? Because here individual cannot be a deductor. it was dividend. So deductor can only be company. Here, the interest is on securities. So securities cannot be issued by individual or HUF. So that is the reason I have not discussed it. But over here, 194A, the borrower can be individual or HUF also. So can they deduct TDS? It depends upon the turnover of the last year. If the turnover of the last year is exceeding last year, LY means last year, exceeds 1 crore, or if they are into profession 50 lakh, then they can deduct TDS. Otherwise, if the last year turnover is not more than this limit, then they cannot deduct TDS. Okay. Who is the person who is receiving the money? It could be any resident. Rate of TDS is 10%. It's a very, very important section. In fact, I tell you, this section, although anything can come in your examination, but if you ask me, this section, in fact, from the examination point of view, is a bit more important than these two. Specifically, the threshold limit. Now, I have told you, bank can pay them, bank, financial institution, post office, etc. They can pay them interest. Firm can pay them interest. Individual can pay them interest. What is the threshold limit? So I'm talking about these banks, cooperative banks, post offices. If they are paying interest to them, the threshold limit is 40,000 rupees. The threshold limit is 40,000 rupees. So in a year, if we are paying up to 40,000, bank will not deduct TDS. But if this limit increases over and above 40,000, let's say if bank is paying 41,000 rupees, then 194A would be applicable. How much? 10%. On what amount? In excess of 40 or entire 41? On entire 41,000, 10% would be there and 4,100 would be deducted. Got it? Provided if Mr. A, the receiver, is a senior citizen, is a resident senior citizen, then this limit of 40,000 will be taken as 50,000 in that case. So the limit could be for from bank's point of view, 40 also, 50,000 also, depend upon the receiver. If this person is a senior citizen, resident senior citizen, of course, then it would be 50, otherwise 40. Got it? See, rupees, if the threshold limit is more than 40 or 50 for senior citizen, if paid by bank, cooperative bank or post office. If this interest is paid by any other person, the threshold limit is more than 5,000 rupees. If you are paying up to 5,000, okay, no TDS. If it is more than 5,000, then TDS would be there on the entire amount. Now you understand what is an entire amount. Got it? Very, very important section. Okay. Now sometimes, let's say this, a partnership firm is there, ABC and Associates. There is a partnership firm, ABC and Associates, and they are giving interest on capital to, let's say, one of the partner, Mr. A. He is receiving interest. Let's say he is receiving interest of rupees 1 lakh, more than the threshold limit. Here, how much we have to see? For banks, etc., it is 40 or 50. For others, it is 5,000. So should this ABC and Associates, while giving the interest to the partner, should deduct TDS at a rate of 10%? The answer is no. This section 194A is not applicable to a partnership firm. Whenever we are paying interest to our partners, we can directly pay them. We will not deduct TDS. So please remember, it is not applicable in case of partnership firm. Although in the recent budget, there is something on some TDS on partners also, but that is not applicable for January 2025. So I'm not discussing that, right? For January 25, please remember, whenever you are a partner, you are getting interest from your partnership firm, there would be no TDS would be applicable. Second, sometimes we get income tax refund. Sometimes we deposit our income tax in surplus, and after some time, income tax department refunds this money to us. And on that, they also pay interest to us. So let's say this is an income tax department. They are paying interest on refund. We understand interest on refund is IFRS income. See, just income tax refund is not our income, correct? Do you remember this? Income tax refund is not an income, but interest on income tax refund is IFRS income, right? So if income tax department is giving interest on income tax refund, I am getting, let's say, interest on income tax refund. Will this income tax department will be deducting TDS? The answer is still no. 194A specifically has mentioned that if you are getting interest on income tax refund, income tax department will not deduct TDS. Income tax department will not deduct TDS. See, no TDS in the following cases. If the interest is received by partner, If interest is paid on income tax refund, no TDS would apply. If interest is paid to any bank, cooperative bank or financial institution, very, very important. Here, examiner gives you a question. Let's say they will give you like this. Let's say in your examination, they will ask you a question. This is, for example, this is Mr. Joy, an individual. He's running his business. His turnover of, he's an individual, and his turnover of last year, let's say, is much more than 1 crore. Let's say it is 8 crores. So it means that he's eligible to deduct TDS, right? Last year turnover is more than 1 crore. He's eligible to deduct TDS. He has taken a loan. He has taken a loan from a bank. Let's say he has taken a loan from SBI. Okay. He has taken a loan from SBI. He's paying EMI to SBI, which includes interest component also. And during this entire year, he is paying interest on loan to SBI. For example, I'm taking a very random amount. He is paying interest to SBI, rupees, let's say 3 lakh is the interest which Mr. Joy is using that amount which he has taken as a loan in his business. That loan contains some interest. Let's say the amount is 3 lakh rupees. Joy, he's a big businessman. His turnover of the last year is much more than 1 crore, 8 crore, let's say. Will he be deducting TDS under section 194A? The answer would be yes. Why? This is not interest on securities. He has just taken a loan and he's paying interest. To whom? Who is the receiver? This receiver is bank. If this receiver is bank or a cooperative bank or a post office, in that case, section 194A would not be applicable. There would be no TDS. It's one of the favorite question of examiner. That Mr. Joy, they will give you 2 or 3 points. And one of the point would be that Mr. Joy is having a business turnover of more than 1 crore. He's paying interest to bank. He has taken a loan. That is the reason he's paying interest to bank. How much TDS? Generally, student will write 10% TDS. But the answer is no. In this case, TDS would not be applicable. Please, it is specifically mentioned. Interest paid to, if you pay interest to any bank, cooperative bank, financial institution, etc., post office, you will not going to deduct TDS. Please do not deduct TDS. Very, very important point. Got it? 192 TDS on salary. 192A employee provident fund. How much is the threshold limit on employee provident fund? 50,000 rupees. If it is more than 50,000, then TDS, otherwise no. 193 interest on securities. 194 TDS on dividend. 194A interest other than securities. A common point, 10% would be the rate of TDS. Got it? Next. 194B, double B and BA, quite similar sections. The rate of TDS is 30% in all these cases. 194B, double B. Let us first understand 194B and double B. 194B or double B. Why I am taking it simultaneously? Because they are almost similar. All the provisions are same. But yes, 194 double B is specifically related to winning from horse races. And for other winnings, we have 194B, except online gaming winning, because now we have a new section for online gaming, which is 194BA. So if you win lottery, if you go to any quiz, game show, etc., and you win any amount, TDS would be deducted under 194B. If it is horse race winning, 194BB. In online games winning, which you download in your phone, there are so many apps available which where you do online gaming. We have a separate section now. First, let us see these two sections, 194B and double B. First of all, the deductor would be any person who is organizing this show or who is organizer of this racehorse or anything. Let's say Sony Entertainment Television has a game show, KBC. So these are the people who will be deducting TDS. And whosoever is the winner, he will be receiving the amount and he would be the deductee. So let's say there is a person, Mr. X, he won rupees 10 lakh rupees from any game show. So that the organizer of the game show will be deducting 30% TDS on this. They will be deducting 30% TDS on 10 lakh. That is rupees 3 lakh they will be deducting. They will be paying you 7 lakh rupees. Got it? This deductee, the winner could be any person. This person could be resident also, non-resident also. The rate is same for both of them. This section is applicable to both, whether you are resident, whether you are non-resident. The rate is very important, 30%, and it is easy to remember also. Threshold limit, 10,000. If you are getting amount up to 10,000, no TDS. If it is exceeding 10,000, then TDS would be there. Then TDS would be there. And provided if you have, let's say, if you have not, if you have won the amount but not in monetary terms, let's say if you have won a car or any other amount in kind, then what they will do? First, they will ensure that the TDS should be the amount of tax should be deposited by the winner. So once the amount is deposited by the winner, they will take this evidence, then only they will be releasing this price, otherwise they will not be releasing it, right? So if the winning is in kind, the deductor has to ensure, the organizer of this game show, the organizer of this race horse, they have to ensure that tax is paid. First they will ensure that tax is paid, then only they will be releasing the prize money, right? This point is not that important, but yes, you should know the threshold limit is 10,000. If it is more than 10,000, then only TDS would be applicable. So if someone has won 12,000 rupees, it would be 30% on 12,000, 3,600, right? The rate of TDS is 30% in this case. Let's come to next section, 194BA. 194BA deals with online games. Online games, we all know online games, Dream 11, and so many apps like these. Hundreds of apps today. So deductor would be any person who is the organizer of this, who is the owner of this online gaming show, this gaming app. Any person, the winner, resident or non-resident, the rate of TDS would be 30%, but TDS rate of 30% would be on the net winning. Net winning means the amount which you have actually won. That is your net winning. Let's say if you have downloaded an app, I will give you an example. Let's say if you have downloaded an app, for example, Dream 11. This is Dream 11. And in your wallet, first of all, you deposited, because you have to play this game. First, you have to deposit some money. So let's say you deposited 10,000 rupees in your wallet. And during this year, you are playing now. And at the end of the year, let's say this money, your wallet is, because you have won so many times. Please don't do this, because it is very, very risky. It is very, very risky, and 99.99% chances are there that we lose over here. So I will never endorse that you should do this. It's pure gambling. Okay. So let's say if this person wins, and at the end of the year, the wallet amount is now 1 lakh rupees. Now the balance in the wallet is 1 lakh. He has not deposited anything. Initially, it was just deposit was 10,000. Now at the end of the year, the balance is 1 lakh rupees. So what is the net winning? The net winning is 90,000 rupees, right? So 90,000 rupees is the net winning. So on this amount, on this 90,000 rupees, they will be deducting TDS at a rate of 30%. Now the question arises when? Whenever you will be withdrawing it, they will be deducting TDS. Or let's say you do not withdraw during the entire year. So at the end of the year, they will be deducting TDS. At the end of the year, even if you are not withdrawing it, at the end of the year, they will be deducting TDS. So there are 2 points where TDS will be deducted: at the time of withdrawal also, and if you are not withdrawing it, at the end of the financial year also, they will be deducting your TDS. Got it? Rate is 30% on what? On your net winning. You got it? What is the net winning? Okay, next section, again a very, very important section. It's an evergreen section, most favorite of the examiner. They often gives this section in examination. 194C. 194C deals with payment to contractor. If you have, first of all, please remember 194C is related only to business related contract, business or profession, I can say. It is not related to any personal contract. First of all, please remember. So it is only related to your business or profession related contract that is of business nature. So if you have given a contract to someone, let's say this contract can be for any thing or any work which you would like to get it done. So you give a contract to a job worker. You can give a contract. Let's say you would like to advertise your business in your city. So you have given this contract to advertising agency. Or even, let's say, if you would like to transport your goods from one place to another, so you have given a contract to a transporter, correct? So there could be several types of contract. So if you have given a contract, if you are a business, you have given a contract to someone, then please deduct TDS. So you are a business. You could be a company, you could be a partnership firm, you could be an AOP, you could be a BOI, you could be individual HUF also, provided those individual HUF whose turnover of the last year is more than 1 crore 50 lakh, right? So the deductor would be any person who is giving contract. So this person is known as contractee, right? The person who is running his business, the person who is giving contract to someone, the person who is getting this contract is the person who will perform. He will known as he knows it. We call him contractor, and we who are giving this contract to someone, we are the contractee, right? So it could be any person. The company can give contract, the partnership firm can give contract. They will be deducting TDS under 194C. If individual HUF is running their business, can they also give contract? The answer is yes, they can give any business contract. TDS would only be deducted, would only apply, the section would only apply if their individual HUF turnover of the last year exceeds 1 crore, or as the case may be 50 lakh, business or profession, as the case may be, right? Who is the contractor? This contractor is a resident contractor. If this person is a non-resident, TDS would not be under 194C, some other section, not in our syllabus. Okay. So this contractor is a resident contractor. How much would be the rate? Very, very important. How much would be the rate? It depends upon this contractor. It depends upon this contractor. If this contractor is individual or HUF, we would be deducting TDS at rate of 1%. But if this contractor is not individual, not HUF, any other person, then 2%, right? So the TDS rate is either 1 or 2. It depends upon the contractee or it depends upon the contractor. It depends upon the contractor. Getting it? So the contractor, if he's individual or HUF, he or she, whatever, individual or HUF, then 1%, otherwise 2%. So the contractor is individual or HUF 1, others it would be 2. I have already mentioned that these are not personal contract. These are business or profession related contract, right? Business or profession related contract. Very, very important, the threshold limit. If you are giving a simple small contract, 5,000, 10,000, 11,000, no need to deduct TDS. But if the contract which you are giving is more than 30,000 rupees, 30,000, very important. You are giving a contract to someone more than 30,000, let's say 32,000 rupees, 35,000 rupees, then please deduct TDS. How much? 1 or 2? Depends upon the contractor. If this person is an individual, let's say you have given a contract of 32,000 rupees and this contractor is an individual, deduct 1% of 32,000. If this person is not an individual HUF, let's say the contractor is a firm, contractor is a company, deduct 2% TDS. Got it? So if the single contract is more than 30,000 rupees, then deduct TDS. Or if the contract is not more than 30,000, do not deduct TDS. But there are multiple contracts during the year. And if the aggregate of these contracts, these were small contracts, but the aggregate of these contracts goes above 1 lakh, then also you should deduct TDS. So if there are single contract, then see 30,000. If there are multiple, then you have to see the aggregate of these contracts. If it is going more than 1 lakh, then TDS would be deducted. These contracts can be in the form of advertising, broadcasting, catering, job work, etc. Right? Now, a very, very important point over here, which is generally asked by the examiner in our examination regarding goods transporter. See, goods transporter has some special advantage. In most of the sections, they have a special advantage. Here also they have special advantage. And this is something which is important and one of the favorite adjustment of the examiner. They give this point. See, if you have given a contract to a transporter, and this transporter does not have, they give you a declaration that, sir, we are a small contractor. We do not have more than 10 goods vehicle. And they furnishes their PAN number to us. Then TDS would not be applicable. We would not be deducting TDS. Please remember, if they furnish their PAN number to us and they also gave a declaration, sir, we are a very small transporter. We don't have more than 10 goods vehicle at any time during the previous year, then the TDS would be 0. No TDS if the contractor furnishes PAN, not more than 10 goods vehicle. Correct? One more last point regarding 194C. See, 194C is payment to contractor, where you are getting any job work done. So it means that if I give you an example, let's say this is a company XYZ Limited. They have let's say they are dealing in certain businesses, they have a business, and for their business, let's say they have a cloth, and they would like to get this cloth dye. It's white in color, and they would like to get it green. So what they will do is they will approach a job worker, they will supply this cloth to him, and they will say, please make it green, please do a process on this material. So this is a job work, this is a contract. We are getting a work done on the material which is supplied by you, So this is would be covered under 194C because you are getting a work done. It is even supplied by you or any of your associate also. It will be considered that you are getting a work done. 194C would be applicable. But if this material is not supplied by you, neither any of your associate, but job worker, he himself is purchasing this material and making it green in color, dyeing it green, and then he is supplying you. What he is supplying you? He is actually supplying you a green color cloth. So if he is doing a process on such material which is not supplied by you, neither by any of your associate, then in that case, we are not getting a work done. In that case, we are purchasing this cloth from him. So in that case, there would be no TDS. Remember this thing. So if we are supplying material or any of our associate is supplying material, please apply 194C. But if this material is not supplied by us, it is arranged by the job worker himself, then he's processing this material and then he's supplying it. So it is actually not getting the work done. It is actually purchasing that particular thing, right? So here TDS will not apply in that case. Got it? Very important point over here. Next, these three sections which I am discussing right now have so much similarity in them. The rate is 5% mostly in most of the cases, just 10% in one of the cases, otherwise 5%. The threshold limit is same over here, 15,000. If you are paying more than 15,000, then only TDS will apply. If it is 15,000 or less, TDS will not apply. And the similarity here is commission. They all related to commission. 194D is an insurance commission. So who receives insurance commission? Insurance agent. Who will pay this insurance commission? Insurance company. So whenever insurance company is paying to their insurance agent, and this agent should be resident, rate of TDS would be 5% if the insurance commission which is getting paid is more than 15,000. If it is 15,000 or less during the year, no TDS. If it is more than 15,000, please deduct TDS. Right? TDS rate would be 5%. But if this insurance agent is a company, the rate will be 10%. Very, very important. Very, very important. Generally, previously it was not there. It was 5 for all. But here there was an amendment. In case this person is a company, then the rate would be 10%. How can insurance agent can be a company? Yes, Policy Bazaar. They are insurance agent. They are a company. So if LIC, life insurance company, or any other insurance company is paying to commission to Policy Bazaar, they are a company, then they will be deducting TDS at a rate of 10%. Otherwise, for other SESI, it would be 10%. It would be 5%, right? Second, 194G is lottery commission. So the person who is the organizer of lottery and they are paying commission to their lottery agent, again, the rate is 5%. Threshold limit is 15,000. If it is up to 15, no TDS. More than 15, deduct TDS. Other commission and brokerage. If it is not insurance commission, it is not lottery commission. It is general insurance. Not actually that general insurance. It is, it's general commission. It is general commission. So if we are giving any other commission or any other brokerage, then if we are giving to any resident, the rate would be 5%. The threshold limit of it would be 15,000. Provided the person who is paying this commission, if this person is an individual or HUF, so it depends upon their turnover of last year. Got it? And here the receiver is resident. But in case of lottery, 194G has not mentioned that whether this person is resident or non-resident. So if it is not mentioned under the law, so we can take it both. It could be resident as well as non-resident. But for 194D and 194H, it is specifically mentioned the receiver is resident. But 194G, it is not mentioned in 194G. So we always interpret it that if it is not mentioned, so that lottery agent could be a resident or non-resident also. Correct? The rate is generally 5%, but only in case of insurance commission. If this agent is a company, then only please apply 10%. Please remember this. This is quite important, right? Because everyone knows that in commission, the rate is 5%. And if this is a company, they will give 5% there as well. So please remember, please take this note that in case this agent is a company, then the rate would not be 5, it would be 10%. Yes, limit is same. Limit is same, 15,000 rupees, right? 194 DA. 194 DA relates to whenever you get your LIC policy maturity. So whenever you get your amount from LIC policy, then TDS would be deducted. So who would be deducting? Insurance company. This person is a resident who is receiving this amount on maturity. The rate of TDS would be 5%. The rate of TDS would be 5% only on the income, whatever amount which you are receiving is, let's say you are receiving 10 lakh rupees. Whether 5% would be deducted on 10 lakh? No, it will be on income component. So let's say you are receiving 10 lakh rupees, and let's say for this policy, you have already paid the premium, for example, 7 lakh rupees. So only on 3 lakh, we would be deducting TDS. So here it is, whatever the income which you have received, income would be the amount received minus the premium paid on this policy. So whatever is the income component, we will be deducting TDS at rate of 5%, provided the amount which you are receiving is more than 5 lakh. So sorry, more than 1 lakh rupees. If it is more than 1 lakh, then only TDS would be deducted, right? And if this policy is an exempt policy, what the amount which you are getting is a exempt amount, then TDS would not be applicable. Correct? I believe that you remember that deduction chapter where we do that if the premium is not more than 10%, not more than 15%, not more than 20%, as the case may be, then this policy is an exempt amount, right? In case it is exempt, then obviously there would be no TDS. But if it is taxable, then TDS would be there. I believe that you are able to recall that provision also of deduction. Okay. Come to next section. Section 194I, again an important section, that is TDS on rent. So whenever you will be getting rent, TDS would be deducted by the deductor. So any person who is paying rent to you, this any person could be company, partnership firm, or any other person. It could be individual or HUF also, provided their turnover of the last year is more than 1 crore or 50 lakh, as the case may be. So individual or HUF can also deduct TDS under this section, provided their turnover of the last year is more than 1 crore if they are carrying business, 50 lakh if, in case they are carrying profession. How much would be the rate of TDS? It is very important. See, if you are getting rent of plant and machinery, the rate would be 2%. But if you are getting rent of, let's say, furniture or building or any other thing, then the rate would be 10%, right? So if you are getting rent of plant and machinery, 2%, furniture also 2%, no, it is only plant and machinery that would be 2%. For others, it is 10%. Threshold limit is 2,40,000 rupees. So if you are getting a rent during the year more than 2,40,000, TDS would be deducted, right? So this person would be deducting your TDS at a rate of 2 in case of plant machinery, in others 10%, right? And you are the assessee who is getting this rent should be a resident. If this person is a non-resident, TDS is applicable in some other section, not under section 194. So please remember, two things are very important. First is the rate of TDS in this section and the threshold limit. If you are getting 2 lakh, 2.1, 2.4, up to 2.4, no TDS. But if it is more than 2.4 lakh, 2.4 lakh means per month, if I'll say 20,000 rupees per month. So if you are getting 20,000 rupees per month, no TDS. But if it is more than 20,000 rupees, but I would suggest you don't learn by way of 20,000 rupees. Please learn by 2,40,000 rupees, right? If it is exact 240, no TDS. But if it is exceeding 240, then TDS would be deducted. Okay. Next section is, although if I'll go in alphabetical order, next section would be 194IA. But right now I am coming to 194IB because these are quite similar section. They both are related to rent. 194I also is related to rent, TDS on rent. 194IB is also related to rent. Why we have a different sections now? If they are both related to rent, why we have a different section? Actually, here only those individual and HUF are covered whose turnover is more than 1 crore or profession, they have more than 50 lakh rupees of gross assets. What if this individual or HUF doesn't have that much turnover? They can come under section 194I. So if it is applicable only to individual and HUF who are not covered under 194I. So the primary section is 194I, but now we have one more section of TDS on rent, that is 194IB. It is applicable if you are an individual, you are paying rent to any resident, or you are an HUF, you are paying any rent to a resident. And if your turnover is not more than 1 crore or 50 lakh, you can deduct TDS under section 194IB, provided the rent which you are paying is more than 50,000 rupees per month. Or for the part of the month, if you have taken anything on rent, for the part of the month, it is more than 50,000 rupees. So here, actually, it is quite a high value transaction. The per month rent is more than 50,000. That is the reason income tax came out with this particular TDS provision. That although you are not that individual whose turnover is quite high, even if it is your personal rent, then also you can deduct TDS, provided the rent which you are paying to this person is quite considerable. It is quite a good amount. How much? 50,000 rupees. Up to 50,000, no TDS, but if it is more than 50,000, then we will be deducting TDS. Second important thing is that every time, whether every month we will be deducting TDS, the answer is no. We will not be deducting TDS every month. We will be deducting the TDS, I can say, once in a year. The last year of tenancy, you can deduct TDS. Last month of tenancy, once in a year, we'll be deducting it. Let's say if you are vacating this property, if let's say this is previous year, 23-24, and let's say if you are vacating this property in the month of December 23, this is the last month, here you have to deduct TDS. Let's say you are not vacating this property, you have taken this particular property on rent for more than 1 year, then in the last month of the year, that is March, you have to deduct TDS. How much? 5%, right? So 5% TDS would be deducted, not every month. In here 194I, TDS would be deducted on all types of payment. Whenever you are making payment or credit, whichever is earlier. But here in 194IB, you will be deducting TDS only once, either at the end of the year, in case you are vacating that property before the end of the year. So last month of the year in which you are vacating the property, then you can deduct TDS. How much? It would be 5%, correct? And if the rent is more than 50,000, then only you can deduct TDS. Either per month rent or part of the month rent is more than 50,000 rupees, then only this section would be applicable. Next important thing is that whenever you will be deducting TDS, it would be 5%, right? But let's say we have a provision. If this assessee does not furnish his PAN number, then we can deduct TDS at rate of 20% also. We can deduct TDS of 20% also. So please make sure when you are deducting this TDS amount cannot exceed the rent of last month. So whatever is the rent of last month, your TDS should be limited up to that amount. If let's say you are applying 20%, if you are applying 50%, it will not go above the rent of the month. But if you are applying that 20% rate, in such case, when this person has not furnished his PAN number, then please make sure that your TDS amount should not exceed your last month rent, right? It's an important point over here. So this was 194IB. Now come to 194IA, again an important section. It is whenever you are purchasing a property, whenever you are purchasing an immovable property, it could be land, it could be building, it could be both. So whenever you are purchasing a property of rupees 50 lakh or more, here 50 lakh would also be included. Even if you are purchasing a property for 49.99, then you can ignore this section. But if you are purchasing a property of exact 50 lakh, this section will apply, 194IA. If it is either 50 lakh or more than 50 lakh, this section will apply. How much TDS? 1%. 1% of what? 1% of your purchase price or stamp duty value, whichever is higher. So let's say you are purchasing it for 60 lakh. So you have to deduct TDS of the rate of 1% of 60 lakh. But let's say the stamp duty value is 70 lakh. So 1% of 60 or 1% of 70, whichever is higher, or you can say 60 or 70, whichever is higher, 70, 1% apply 1% of that. So 1% of the consideration which you are paying or stamp duty value, whichever is higher. if the value of the property is 50 lakh or more. Which value? Either the purchase price is 50 lakh rupees or more, or the stamp value, anything. If the purchase price, let's say you are purchasing it for 45 lakh, so this section will not apply. But the stamp duty value is 50 lakh, then this section will apply. So either the consideration price or the stamp duty value, please remember, very, very important point. Any one of them, if it is exceeding 50 lakh, or in fact, it is even up to 50 lakh rupees, exact 50 lakh, cut to cut, it is 50 lakh. Please go and deduct TDS. How much? 1% of the consideration value or stamp duty value, whichever is higher, 1% of that should be deducted. Who will deduct? Obviously, the purchaser will deduct whatever he is paying to the seller, deduct 1% and then pay. Okay. Next section, again, a very, very important section. These all sections are quite important. 194J is actually more important. 194J here, it applies on five things. First, if you are paying professional fees to someone, 194J will apply. Let's say if you are paying audit fees to a chartered accountant, to a cost accountant, then this 194J will apply. If you are paying fees for technical services, if you are paying technical fees, then this section will apply. If you are paying royalty, this section will apply. If you are paying non-competing fees, this section will apply. And also, if you are a company, you are paying an amount to your director, not in the nature of salary, because if you are paying salary to your director, that it will be covered under 192. But if you are paying any other fees to your director, which is not in the nature of salary, then company is also liable to deduct TDS under 194J. So 194J is actually on five things: your professional services, technical services, royalty, non-competing fees, and direct fees. Please remember, very, very important section. Threshold limit. Threshold limit is 30,000 for each type of amount which you are paying. If you are paying to someone professional fees of 25,000 and 10,000 technical services, so you have to aggregate the two. No, please keep it separate. For everything, please keep it separate. For professional fees, 30,000 separately, technical 30,000 separately, royalty 30,000 separately. And if the amount is exceeding more than 30,000, then you have to deduct TDS, right? But for director fees, there is no threshold limit. Again, a very, very important point. For director fees, there would be no threshold limit. Even if you are paying 10,000 rupees, 5,000 rupees to a director, please deduct TDS at rate of 10%, right? So any person who is paying professional, technical, royalty, non-competing fees, director fees is generally paid by company, but these things can be paid by any other person also. They will be deducting TDS. Provided 194J is similar to 194C, here only the amount which you are paying should be of your business nature. The professional fees you are paying, the technical fees you are paying, the royalty fees you are paying should be related to your business or profession. Then only 194J would be applicable. Got it? So these can be paid by individual HUF also, provided the individual HUF turnover is more than 1 crore 50 lakh, as the case may be, right? If you are paying it to any person, then deduct TDS. 30,000 would be the fees separately for profession, separately for technical, royalty, non-competing. But for director fees, there is no threshold limit. Correct? Second most important thing, what is the rate? The general rate is 10%. The general rate is 10%, but however, there is a rate of 2% is also in certain cases. General rate is 10% under 194J, but yes, it is 2% also in some cases. If you are paying for technical services, then the rate would be 2%. For technical services, the rate would be 2%. Right? It has made par with the contract service, because some people were saying, no, sir, I'm not paying technical services. I have given this contract. So there was a bit of argument. There was a bit of litigation. So to avoid that litigation, they're saying, okay, we are making for technical services also 2%. So for technical services, it is 2%. If you are paying to a call center, then 2%. Or if you are paying royalty, for royalty, it is 10%. But if it is a very specific royalty related to cinematographic films, then it would be 2%. So 2% would be for technical services, for call center, for royalty. Only for cinematographic films, it is 2%. For other type of royalty, 10%. Right? For others, the rate would be 10%. Generally, the rate is 10%. And please remember, 30,000 for each. But for director fees, there is no such limit. And these amount which you are paying should be your business or professional related. They should not be your personal professional services or personal technical services. Correct? Okay. 194k. 194k is actually an income of mutual fund. Income of mutual fund. And if you will say, you can also write it over here. This is, if you have this printed copy, I'll be sharing this PDF. So you can write it over here. It is equivalent to 194. It is almost similar to 194. That is TDS on dividend. The same type of provisions are applying in 194k also, because this is also kind of dividend. Actually, we don't call it dividend. Actually, we call it income on mutual funds. So if you are getting, if you have the units of mutual fund, and if mutual fund is giving you income, some people also call it dividend, but let me call it income on mutual funds units. So again, these mutual fund company, when they will be paying to the resident investor 10% TDS, they're also in 194. There was 10% TDS on dividend. Here also it is 10%. There also the limit was 5,000. Here also the limit is 5,000. So if it is more than 5,000, then we, all the threshold limit which I have mentioned should exceed the threshold limit. Then only TDS provisions will apply, except 194 IA, where it was 50 lakh also, then TDS will apply. More than 50 lakh, obviously TDS will apply. But if it is exact 50 lakh, also TDS will apply. But otherwise, in all other sections, they should exceed threshold limit. Correct? Okay. Then another section, 194 LA. 194 LA is a bit similar to 194 IA. 194 IA, you are purchasing immovable property. But in 194 LA, this is also related to immovable property, but actually the property is being compulsory acquired. In case of compulsory acquisition of immovable property, so if this is a question of immovable property, and if it is compulsory acquired, then we have a specific section 194 LA. Otherwise, if you are purchasing the property, then 194 LA, right? So 194 LA would be applicable if you are acquiring any immovable property other than agriculture land. On agriculture land, it will not be applicable. Other than agriculture land, if you are compulsory acquiring it, then it would be applicable. Any person who is compulsory acquiring it while paying the amount to the resident more than 2.5 lakh. Here the threshold limit is 2.5 lakh. In 194 IA, it was 50 lakh or more. But here it is more than 2.5 lakh. Rate of TDS would be 10%. There it was 1%. 194 IA, it was 1. But here it is 10%. Right? Again, quite an important section. On and off examiner do ask question on this LA also. It's a very small section, but from examination point of view, examiner keep on asking this a question on this 194 LA as well. 194M, again an important section. Most of the section on this page are important. 194M is an important section. Actually, it is a combination of 194C contract. It is a combination of 194H commission and brokerage. It is also a combination of 194J professional services. So it is actually the combination of all these three sections. But it is specifically for individual or HUF. If individual is or HUF has given a contract, it could be a personal contract also, because 194C, they were covering only business related contract. So if it is a personal contract and it is of a substantial value, it is of a high value, the income tax department would like to see this transaction. That is the reason they have inserted the provision of TDS over here. So if it is 194M, 194M will say, if you are paying something to a contractor, or you are paying for professional services, or you are paying for commission brokerage, TDS rate would be 5%. The amount, the threshold limit is quite a substantial amount. It's more than 50 lakh. So if you have given a contract to someone, which is, and you are paying in a year, it is more than 50 lakh rupees. If you are paying professional fees, more than 50 lakh. If you are paying commission and brokerage more than 50 lakh, then 194M would be applicable, right? And who would be the deductor? Those individual HUF who were not covered in these sections, 194C, 194J, or 194H. Who were not covered, whose turnover was not more than 1 crore or 50 lakh, as the case may be, they are covered over here. Or let's say it is 194C or 194J. If it is personal contract, then they are also covered over here. So the rate of TDS would be 5%. The threshold limit is 50 lakh rupees. If you are paying more than 50 lakh, please go and deduct TDS at rate of 5%. A very, very important section, 194M. Okay, next, 194N, again an important section. Whenever you withdraw cash from any bank, cooperative bank, or post office, then that bank is going to deduct TDS. That bank is going to deduct TDS if you are withdrawing more than 1 crore rupees. So in excess of 1 crore, here the TDS would be in excess of 1 crore at a rate of 2%. If you are withdrawing more than 1 crore rupees, then 2% TDS would be chargeable. So this bank, if you will withdraw cash, let's say if you are withdrawing 1.2 crore rupees, so on 1 crore, we will not deduct TDS. In excess of 1 crore, that is on 20 lakh, we are going to deduct 2% TDS. Provided if the person who is withdrawing the amount, he has not filed his ROI on time, they are called as non-filers. They have not filed their last 3 years ROI whose due date has expired. If they have not filed it on time, they will be regarded as non-filers. So in that case, we will not apply 1 crore limit. In that case, we will apply 20 lakh rupees. So in case if the person is a non-filer, remember, if the person is a non-filer and they are withdrawing the amount from bank, cooperative bank or post office, more than 20 lakh rupees, then 2% TDS would be deducted. And if they are withdrawing more than 1 crore, then 5%. So I can say from 20 lakh till 1 crore, 2% for them, and over and above 1 crore, it would be 5%. Got it? So 2% in excess of 20 lakh, and after 1 crore, it would be 5% in excess of 1 crore. Correct? And there is an important amendment. If the person who is withdrawing the amount is a cooperative society, then this 1 crore would be substituted by 3 crore rupees. So if cooperative society is withdrawing the amount, let's say this cooperative society is filing their return on time. So we understand for them generally 1 crore was the limit, and the rate of it would be 2% generally for filers who are complying with the law. But here we will not see 1 crore, we will see 3 crore. So this for cooperative society, this 1 crore would be replaced by 3 crores. So up to 3 crore, they don't have to pay TDS, but if they withdraw more than 3 crore, then 2% would be levied. If this cooperative society is a non-filer, see 20 lakh will remain, but this 1 crore would be replaced by 3 crores. This 1 crore would be, so I can say from 20 lakh till 3 crore, 2%. More than 3 crore, it would be 5%. Got it? A very important amendment. If the person who is withdrawing is a cooperative society, right? Next is 194P, so section, not very important from examination point of view, but yes, it is there in our syllabus. 194P also, examiner can ask from anywhere. 194P, the deductor would be some notified banks. And 194P is a very special section only for senior citizen. Which type of senior citizen also? Who are of the age of 60? No, 75 or more. If they are of age 75 years or more, see, they are 75, they are very old SSC. So we have given a benefit to them because if they might be getting pension, right? And their pension is going in one bank account, right? They are having only one bank account. And in that bank account, they must be having their saving account, they must be having their FD, etc. So there might be interest income also. So generally they have income from their pension and interest. So what we will say to that bank that whatever income they have, please calculate the tax on that. In the similar manner, the tax which we are calculating for 192, that is average rate of tax you have to calculate. So it depends upon that income of this senior citizen who is 70, who is not just 60, 75 or more. So it depends upon the income of the senior citizen that how much tax he has to pay. So this bank, this notified bank will deduct their TDS and they will deposit to the income tax department. And if this notified bank has deducted their entire TDS, they are not required to file their return of income. That is the reason we have came out with this provision. So because they are quite old, it would be quite inconvenient for them to file their return of income. That is the reason we are saying that notified bank, please deduct their TDS as per their income. Whatever their income is, calculate tax on that. If there is any tax which is coming, please deduct the TDS on that and submit it to the income tax department. In that case, they are not liable to file their ROI. Correct? Provided it is very important that they should have only one bank account, not multiple bank accounts. They should have only one bank account, right? So if different bank account, this section will not apply. Correct? What is the rate? It depends upon the income of the assessee. So it would be average rate of tax. 194P. 194Q. 194Q is again a high value transaction. A buyer, eligible deductor would be a person who is purchasing goods. provided his turnover of the last year is more than 10 crore. That is, he is quite having a good business, decent business. His turnover of the last year is exceeding 10 crore rupees. And in this year, if he's purchasing from someone goods of the value of more than 50 lakh, if he's purchasing from someone, from resident seller, he's purchasing goods more than 50 lakh rupees, then they will be deducting TDS on how much sum? 0.1%. 0.1% on the amount exceeding 50 lakh. On the amount exceeding 50 lakh. Getting it? Exceeding 50. So if we are purchasing for 51 lakh, on first 50 we will not deduct, but on exceeding amount 1 lakh we will be deducting 0.1% TDS. Here again, government would like to trace high value transactions. So a buyer whose turnover of the last year is more than 10 crores and he's purchasing from someone goods more than 50 lakh rupees, 0.1% in excess of 50 lakh rupees, they are going to deduct TDS. Right? Last section 194R. 194R. Any person who is giving gifts, benefits, perquisite to whom? To any person who has business or professional income. That is, a person who is having PGBP income is receiving any gifts, benefits, or perquisites. From whom? From any person. From any person. Company is giving them gift. Any partnership firm is giving them gift. They are liable to deduct TDS. If individual or HUF is giving them the gift, provided such individual HUF turnover of the last year is more than 1 crore 50 lakh, as the case may be. So if these person are giving a gift to any person who is having PGBP income, then and these gifts are more than 20,000 rupees, then TDS will be deducted at a rate of 10%. So if they are receiving gift, let's say 25%, so 10% of 25,000, 2,500 will be the TDS, right? So you can get an amount that there is an influencer, a YouTube influencer, they are having their PGBP income, they are doing their profession. And let's say there is a company who gives a mobile phone to them. They review that mobile phone and company is saying, please keep this mobile phone with you. So it is a gift. If they have to return it back, then it is not a gift. But if they can keep this mobile phone and if the value is more than 20,000 rupees, then TDS would be deducted at a rate of 10%. Got it? Again, quite an important section, 194R. So some sections are very important. If you ask me on this page, 194N, although you have to do all the sections, but if you ask me that which sections are a bit more important so that we can revise them more, so I would say 194N is one of an important section. 194Q is also examiner keep on asking on this. This page is quite important. 194I is an important section. J is a very important section. LA is also an important section. M is also an important section. In fact, this page I will say most of the sections are important. And on this page, 194C, very, very important section. 194C. See, these sections are easy. You can learn these sections also. They are important also and they are easy also. The threshold limit is 15,000 on all these commission and the rate is 5%. Just on insurance commission, please remember, if this agent is a company, then 10% would apply, right? And here again, these 19 interest sections are a bit important, right? Although TDS is altogether an important chapter, but if you ask me, yes, there are sections which are a bit more important, right? So I hope that you are able to revise your TDS chapter also through this lecture. And I'll be discussing TCS also in my next lecture. Till then, thank you so much. Bye and take care.